Mr. Kip Sorensen, glad to have you back, man.
It's good to be back. It's good to be stateside.
Yeah, were you in India? Is that right?
Yeah, I was
You
in
went over
India
for Trump's rally, right?
Yeah. In fact, I was in the same exact city. I showed up the day after, luckily, because
right?
I'm assuming traffic would have been just
It looked
chaos.
like an insane turnout. I don't know how many people were there, but
100,000. Yeah, hundreds of thousands of people in the world's largest, I guess, cricket stadium.
I was going to ask, was it soccer? But cricket, all right.
Yeah, it's a really large.
Don't know much
stadium.
about cricket. Just play baseball. It's the better sport, anyways.
The funny part, so years back, I visited a team over in India, and they wanted to play cricket. It was me and one other American guy, and we went out to the park, and they're like, "Yeah, let's play cricket." And they showed us the rules. It was actually quite fun, but I could not let the ball bounce, right? So because you hit off of a bounce,
right?
Yeah, and I just constantly just like stepped up and then try to like
hit a
home run. Totally. I could not like swing it how you're supposed to at all.
Those guys are like, this American dumbass, what is he doing here?
I know, totally. Like, you're doing it wrong. I'm like, no, actually it's far more enjoyable. Yeah. And it's far more enjoyable to hit that sucker way out,
Yeah, for sure. Well, I assume, I don't really know, but I got to assume that cricket probably did come first before baseball, but still baseball is the superior sport, no doubt.
Yeah, totally. Well, and I don't know. I'm sure people don't care. You guys care, so just pretend you care. Listen,
they care.
Do you know how soccer and football and American football, how that whole naming convention got messed up? It's actually really insightful.
No, I actually don't. I mean, I know obviously it's messed up, but I don't know how it got messed up.
It was the Brits originally, actually. So they called it soccer at one point, and then we held on to it, and then they converted it back to football. But it's actually a combination of, it was a club that did rugby, and it's a combination of soccer, rugby that messed up the name convention, and then we adopted football, and then they switched to soccer. Or no, we adopted soccer and they switched to football. So soccer was like a name of a club, I think.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. That's how it got messed up.
Yeah, it wasn't as interesting as I thought it would be.
No, well, and I probably slaughtered it, and I could have done a much better job. You're like, oh, awesome, I want to get great detail, and that was all like kind of really elusive.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Well, okay. Now
that's how I regurgitate information.
Is it Billy Madison? The Billy Madison quote. We're all now dumber having heard that response.
Possibly. I should have prepped.
Yeah. Well, next time you can. We'll give you another chance. Or we can always edit this out and clean it up.
Yeah. How's this?
Don't edit this. So.
Oh, we're gonna rip it out.
Yeah, I mean, that
was bad.
I mean, it's important to let the guys know. Like, we don't edit this podcast. In fact, I don't overly edit any of our podcasts. There might be some little wonkiness, or I've got to splice two elements together that got messed up, but for the most part, our podcasts are raw, whether it's the interview podcast or this one or the Friday Field Notes. It's just hit the record button, release. That's pretty much the process.
And what I'm hearing is the edits have nothing to do with changing of content or the elimination of content. It's really like noise, background slicing, and things like that.
Yeah, that's about it. Yep. So, all right, man. Well, should we get to the questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
I had to run solo. I think I did a pretty good job, but yeah, I don't know. We'll have to let the guys be the.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if not, let Ryan know if he did a good job or not.
Don't let me know. I would rather live in my bubble and just assume I did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I'm so amazing. Yeah, as long as no one tells me otherwise.
Right. Yeah, and
that's funny.
It's better. It's a better way to. Ignorance is always the best approach. I've found. So.
That's what we promote here on the Order of Man podcast.
Guys, by the way. Okay. Nobody here is promoting ignorance. Be smart, be wise, get the information you need. All right, what's the first question? Are we going to the Iron Council first?
Yes, sir. So we're filling these questions from the Iron Council, our exclusive brotherhood. Learn more, orderofman.com/Iron Council.
We call it pay to play. If you're paying, then you get to play. If you're not, then you get bumped to the end of the line.
Yeah. Also known as living a life full, like investing in your life is also what we call it. So
that's probably a better way to say it than pay to play. So we'll start using that from now on for the Iron Council.
Yeah. Invest in your life. That's the tagline. Iron Council, invest in your life. All right. Nicholas Bean, what does a hero's journey represent for you? Maybe we make a little bit of reference, obviously, because this is coming from Nicholas and the IC, and I'm assuming this has to do with our book of the month that we're covering.
Yes.
But
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about living heroically inside the Iron Council, which is not. I was a little hesitant with Joshua on this one with the naming of it. Him and I were very much in alignment. You know, it's not about the external idea of being some superhero, right?
Yeah.
Or putting yourself in a stupid situation so you can prove to everybody else how heroic you can be. But it is about espousing the virtues that we generally would think of when it comes to being heroic: bravery, courage, resilient, grit, fortitude, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what this month is all about in the Iron Council. For me, the hero's journey is just being prepared at all times for anything that may come up. You know, I there's all kinds of situations that might come up, whether, like I had mentioned last week, we had a guy try to get into our house in the middle of the night. It could be, yeah. Did you hear that story?
Yeah.
Crazy. Or a natural disaster. Now we have, coronavirus that everybody's dealing with. In fact, I think somebody asked about the coronavirus, and we'll get into that here in a minute. Or a car accident or anything, right? There's any number of situations. And for me, the hero's journey is just about being physically, mentally, and emotionally prepared, and then also capable of dealing with the situation. It's very, very important to me. So regardless of what that situation is, I always want to be prepared for that thing. It's difficult because you don't really know what to be prepared for, right?
Yeah.
I know I give the Boy Scouts a lot of grief, especially with some of their most recent decisions. But to quote Lord Baden-Powell, when he was asked about what you should be prepared for, he said, for anything. And I think we as men need to anticipate what might come up and fill in any holes that we see as being necessary. So for me, it's about being a protector. It's about stashing money aside, so if we get into financial trouble, we'll be good there. It's about preparing our home for an intruder. It's about having food storage. It's about training my body physically to be strong, but then also capable through martial arts. I can't get really into the specifics because I don't know what specifically we're talking about, but I just want to be prepared. I just want to be ready mentally, physically, emotionally, and be capable of dealing with a threat should it arise. Yeah.
Asia and I have created chaos in our family for the last 2 weeks because I was out of country. She's out of country this week. And, so I'm doing kind of like get kids off to school, babysitter, go to work. I have to leave work a little bit early, and it's managed chaos. And it's interesting because and I know it's not like the hero, like save someone's life, right? But I think there's moments to be a hero just in common day life, right? Am I there for my kid if he's struggling today, if he has a really bad day and maybe he has low self-esteem or, you know what I mean? Something happened. Am I in a position to be his hero? And it's ironic is what does, in my circumstance, back to my managed chaos this week is if our house is not in order and it's already chaotic, then that pulls me away from being in a position to provide assistance, right? If I don't have a solid schedule figured out, then it pulls me away from actually being present. And so I think like we can prepare for events, but a lot of it has to do with just kind of having our shit together. Yeah. And just in all aspects, whether it's how well your garage is organized, to having your schedule figured out, to being physically fit, to having a clarity of your own mind of what goals and what purpose that you have in life, and having that clarity for yourself. Like all those things put us in a position to be able to serve other people. Mm-hmm. And that heroism might be something as simple as a guy reaching out to Ryan and saying, hey, I'm struggling right now and I really need to have a conversation. And because you're in line in life and your integrity gap is minimal, that puts you in a position to be able to have that conversation where normally, we might be running with our heads cut off because, there's managed chaos because we don't have our things aligned in our lives.
Right. Yeah. I actually think that's one of the traps too, when you talk about living heroically or the hero's journey, like we're talking about in the Iron Council, is guys thinking that it's visible, right? When you think of a hero, don't you think of like being highly visible? Like I think of, what's the guy, Jack, I can't remember his name, who shot that would-be mass killer inside the church.
Yeah, just a couple months ago, yeah.
Right, you think, okay, that's a heroic action, no doubt. And so people look at that and think, okay, that's very visible, right? He was recognized nationally, if not globally, for his heroic actions. But sometimes it isn't that, right? It's just reading a book with your kid, or it's just showing up to work every single day on time and doing your job to the best of your ability. No accolades, no recognition, but those are they're not heroic moments necessarily, but you are espousing the virtues that a hero espouses.
Yeah. And it could be heroic for the individual, right? I had a good friend of mine. I was like, to be honest with you, I was really honored by it. He's a little bit in a slump for whatever reason, struggling, asked me to come over to his house and kind of give him a blessing and have a talk. To him, that was a really big thing. Like, that was very valuable to him. But it's ironic is how easy it would have been for me to be in a position not to do that, right? Not to be in the right mindset, to be able to have that beneficial conversation. That could have been very easy. Yeah. Right. It could have been as simple as me not organizing my day and being chaotic and pissed off and not even being in the right mindset to even say the right things.
One thing that I've noticed in my own life that I need to be very aware of and make sure I combat, and I think a lot of guys are probably like this as well, is procrastination.
Yeah.
You know, I think I've got this thing, I've got everything handled, I got things taken care of, and I've got this event or this assignment or this task that's, 2, 3, 4 weeks down the road. I got time, and all of a sudden, bam, it's here. Or something comes out of the woodworks that I didn't expect and completely derails everything. And that procrastination keeps me from accomplishing not only what I originally intended to do, but that thing that came out of the woodworks as well. So we really need to be conscious of the procrastination. If you feel like you've got to do something, there's no time like the present to do it. Just get it done, check it off the list, and then you can drive on with your day.
Yeah, stay on top of things.
Yeah. All right, what else?
All right, Chris Gatchko, coronavirus. How serious are you taking it? What precautions have you taken because of it, et cetera? It's such a hot topic, and I think it's a discussion that could be viable. Him being in the hospitality and tourism industry, this topic is dominating my mind these days.
Yeah, I think it's blown out of proportion. I really do. I actually saw in the news this morning that the sixth, I believe, case or sixth death, I should say, in the U.S. was reported due to coronavirus. So, it's going to get worse before it starts to stabilize and get better and there's a vaccination or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I just think it's blown out of proportion. I think it's something we should be very aware of. We should plan for. But for the most part, my strategy is to do the things that we all know we should be doing anyways. Yeah. Like washing your hands, obeying general rules of personal hygiene. I don't particularly enjoy traveling or large spaces anyways, but I'm going to limit that to the best of my ability. And if I see somebody who's sick or I know there might be sick people there, then I'm not going to go. Like, we're going to stay home and we're going to do our thing. But having food storage is important. Making sure that this is something that a lot of people overlook. Making sure that you have adequate fuel sources. So, for example, if you let your truck get down to empty before you fill it up, you're doing yourself a disservice. Your vehicle should never be below half a tank, because you never know. Like, if you get stuck in a blizzard or you get lost or you need to go on a long trip or there's no access to fuel anywhere, like, that's actually something that's overlooked quite often. We do the same thing with our fuel in our home for our heating system. And we have backup heating generator in place just to make sure. So we have all these redundancies built into place in case the worst case scenario happens. Now, I hope it doesn't, but I don't want to be caught unprepared should that happen. Firearms are a big component of this, making sure that we can defend ourselves and protect ourselves. Matthew Arrington, a mutual friend of ours, told me about this book. I wish I could remember it. We'll have to reach out to him and see if he can get it to us. But it was a book that he told me about where, and I don't know, I don't know if it's fictional or if it's based on a real situation, but the power goes down in a country, and it talks about how quickly everybody just goes psychotic.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely insane. Scary.
Yeah.
So food storage, adequate fuel, power, backup power, firearms, and then just obeying general hygiene. Even like jujitsu, for example, is like the grossest thing you could possibly do. And we clean those mats every session. You know, we're cleaning those mats. I get home. I don't like hug up on everybody. I go home. I go straight to the shower. I got some good soap. I clean myself off, give myself a good scrub down. And
you don't go grab a burger and
I don't wash my hands or anything like that. And oof.
Yeah. And that goes for everything. It's like even my son, when he was wrestling, I'm like, dude, like you can't delay, right? Like if you're not going to shower right after wrestling practice, you have to shower immediately once you get home.
Yes.
Like no laying on your bed and chilling for a while and showering later. Like you're going to have staph or ringworm or something all over our house, you know?
Yeah. Go take a shower. But I generally, I think it's blown out of proportion. That doesn't mean I'm not aware of it or trying to plan for it or be smart about it. I do get frustrated with the politicalization of it, you know, and I've heard people say, oh, it's not being politicized. They're just asking questions. No, when you start calling the virus Trump virus.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And you like overly criticize the president and the government's reactions to this. Questioning is one thing.
Because they're not locking everyone down in their homes. Right. Is that what we want? Really? Yeah. We want that type of government that like takes away all your freedoms?
It's crazy. Questioning is one thing, and we should question. But when you start to politicize it, it's repulsive that anybody would take something like this and try to publicize, politicize. I can't say it. We just need to work together on that stuff. Like everybody's on the same page. And you know what? It almost seems as if there's certain sides of the aisle that would actually rather have this get worse so they could get Trump out of office. Like I find that disgusting. Like I'm not saying you have to agree with Trump or even like him, but like to wish this happens so that he's out of office, that's a ridiculous thing. Ridiculous.
Yeah. For sure.
So anyways.
What's been interesting about the coronavirus is, one, to see how it affects globalization and trade. It's really interesting.
No doubt.
Like if this was even more severe than it was, you start wondering, like, can our country sustain itself without trades? Mm-hmm. What countries are dependent on other countries for their food supplies? Like it really changes things, right? Because if this virus is being spread through shipping companies and it's on product and it's showing up in your country, like it's not just people, it's actually products being shipped. It's just really interesting how it affects globalization, but it is a numbers game, right? And so, because I looked into this because I was immediately like, wait a second, more people die from the flu every year than this thing is taking lives. So what's the big deal, right? Because the death rates are usually people that are kind of really physically poor, like in a really bad condition already.
It's not that they're
right?
poor. That's not the issue. The issue is access to medical technology, and so that's correlation doesn't equal causation, right? It's not that they're poor. I think you're right. It's that their access to medical care is limited because of their economic situation.
Yeah, but it's also it's affecting people with poor health. So
for sure.
Healthy people aren't dying, right? It's actually people with really bad poor health conditions.
Elderly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the rate is what's quasi scary. So flu is 0.1%. So the amount of people that die every year in the US, it's 0.1% from the flu.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So 1% of flu victims die from the flu itself.
Right.
The death rate for this virus, and you can only go off China's numbers, right? Because that's where most of it's happened. The death rate in China is 2.3%. So if you look at that 0.1 versus 2.3, that's where the concern is.
Sure.
It's the death rate.
And if you look at the death rate, if I understand this correctly, it's 2.3 in this Wuhan or whatever this province or the city where it came from, which is economically pretty impoverished and depressed, right?
Yeah.
Which goes back to the other thing.
Which would be drastically different if that happened in the US, right?
The other thing that is not telling the entire story as far as the death rate goes is that it's a death rate based on reported cases.
Yeah.
So what about unreported cases? And it seems to me, based on what we know, that it's actually been in the US longer than we've identified it. And a lot of these cases for healthy individuals are going unreported
Unnoticed.
and untreated.
Someone has a cold.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So that would actually lower the death rate. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be wary of it and we shouldn't understand it. I will say I don't like the flu debate argument where people say, well, the flu kills more people. It's like, well, the flu's been around longer. We know more about the flu. Like, there's a lot of uncertainty.
More people get it. Yeah.
Right. I saw a guy made a post on Twitter and he said, 6 more people died from coronavirus in the U.S., which is more than or less than how many babies have been killed in the last 60 seconds while you read this post. And I'm like, I get and I'm pro-life, right? So I get what he's saying and why he's using that, but it's just not an intelligent.
It's not a good debate tactic either, right?
And I don't think it's intended to be. It's just intended to piss people off and rile them up, which is kind of like the point of Twitter, which he was effective with it for sure.
Yeah.
But it's not like to compare it to something else. And say, well, it's not as bad as this. Well, okay. Does that mean that we shouldn't address it at all, or
you just ignore it then? Yeah.
Right. What's your point? So it's just something to be aware of and then deal with accordingly. But I do think it's blown out of proportion. But that doesn't mean that we can't take our own personal precautions and protect ourselves and our families and do what we need to do as men.
It's actually causing a little bit of a disruption here in Utah.
Well, I'm sure it's everywhere. You think about
was everyone else like water selling out at Costco instantly?
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
But you know what? Good, because now
at least
we
they're
know.
thinking and prepping you.
Well, no, and I'm saying now maybe let's say this is not as catastrophic as some people would make it out to be. Well, maybe it wakes some people up to, oh man, this pandemic is a very real threat, and we need to make sure we get prepared now, not when something happens. So hopefully it moves people in the right direction at a minimum. Hopefully that's what it does.
And just, so we're not, spreading rumors. It's actually a result of Corona beer, right? Is why I got started. Too much partying.
Yep. You know what's funny? I was talking with someone and they were telling me that Corona, the beer, the alcohol, has just been decimated because of this, right?
I know. I read that.
There was a survey that said 38% of the respondents believed that coronavirus actually had something to do with Corona beer.
Yeah, it's 38% or something. Yeah.
But look, I'm a marketer, right? So from a marketing standpoint, I'm like, Corona, make fun of yourself, get out ahead of this and ridicule and mock yourself, because I'm telling you, if you don't and you try to take this higher road, you're going to get demolished. So just poke fun at it, have fun with it. I'm just saying, if Corona doesn't get ahead of that, they're going to have a real difficult path forward.
Yeah. Which this is great for them as a business to say, who could have forecasted that, right?
Exactly.
You might be in a business and your market is the majority, you own the majority of the market and you're killing it. And then some stupid virus decides to use your company name.
Well,
talk about be prepared, right?
Yeah. And this is part, when I was doing financial planning, this is actually part of the reason that I suggest that you don't pick individual stocks.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, Apple's always going to be the best.
It's never going to go bad. Yeah.
And then you have something stupid like this, or something maybe not stupid, that comes up that you could never have anticipated. And you've got all your money in Apple or all your money in large cap stocks.
Yeah.
And you're out of luck.
Yeah. New health study comes out and Apple's eating apples are tied to cancer. All of a sudden it affects Apple computers.
Or some sort of, government regulation comes down and renders some program or app or system completely obsolete. We don't know. We don't know.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
We're riffing a lot. All right. Christopher Elder, how have your implementation of after action reviews in your daily routine? How in depth do you go, and how often, if ever, do you reread your past after action reviews?
I usually don't read them after I've done them, because I've already implemented a plan to address an issue. And then I'll do another after action review.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll uncover the same problems that I uncovered in the first, and sometimes they'll be entirely new. So for me, there's never really been a reason to go back unless I'm actively focused on that task or project or whatever, right? Otherwise, I'll just do a new after action review. Now, I do daily after action reviews. So every single day, I'm looking at my day. I'm looking at what I wanted to accomplish and what I didn't get done and how well I did and was I effective and was I not effective. I'm looking at that stuff every single day. So that's how I incorporate it. I also look at it when I'm just doing menial things. Like even after this podcast, I'm going to do an after action review, right? Like we're using Zoom now instead of Skype. So like I'm going to go and say, okay, was it as good as it could have been?
Worked, yeah.
Did it not work? How was the connection? How was the audio quality? What could we do to shore up the video quality? So I'm always, regardless of what it is, even if I'm playing with my kids afterwards, it's like, was that a good time? You know, like, did we have fun? Was I present? Was I available? Did they enjoy the time? Was I a dick because I was thinking about work when I should have been thinking about them? Like I'm doing it all the time. Some of them are going to be in depth based on what the project is, and others are just going to be a quick recap and, hey, was that good? Yes, it was. Yeah. No, it wasn't. Okay, why was it good? Why wasn't it good? And I'm doing this constantly every single day. So the after action review isn't like a strategy for me, because strategy to me means that it's like some little thing that you implement at some point throughout your day or your life. It is a way of life. Yeah. The after action review should be so ingrained and indoctrinated to your DNA that it is not a strategy. It's just your way of life. How did this go? What did I do well? What did I not do well? What did I accomplish? What did I not accomplish? And what am I going to do to make sure that I either produce the same results if they were favorable or better results if they were less than favorable to begin with?
Yeah, totally. I think for a lot of guys, maybe it's maybe systematic initially, right? Until they reach the self-actualization stage of Ryan Michler, where it's like, oh, this is built in now for me.
You make it sound like I
added you to Maslow's hierarchy. Yeah, you're at the very top. Past self-actualization, it's like Michler stage.
You elevated me way too high.
But if you don't mind me sharing what we do, because this might be insightful, right, for some people. So we do after action reviews at Journey Team. I've made it part of how we function as a team. And so at the end of a project, we'll do an after action review. And I've kind of tailored it a little bit, like it's add some additional things like how do we do on budget? What was the timeline specific? And then we have the kind of those same open-ended questions that are part of the after action review. But we have so many of them that it's hard for me to implement like a change in business process after every single project and then communicate it out to the entire team. And that becomes kind of a little bit overwhelming. And so what I've done is we do after action reviews as part of our project retrospective. And then at the end of the quarter, then we tally those up and look for trends across all the projects. And then we'll adjust on a quarterly basis. Like, okay, we see some trending here. Let's adjust this moving into the next quarter. And so I kind of use it as kind of a database, right, of after action reviews, then to implement process after a given period of time.
Yeah, I like that you're looking at trends. I would just say, and I don't think you're falling into this trap, I would just say that be careful if you hear that and you think, okay, I'll just look at trends over a 12-month period, for example.
And only fix those things.
Only fix it then. It's like, no. Yeah. Like you need to be fixing it as you go, building it, fixing it, correcting it as you go. And then you can come back and recap and actually look at if there's trends that may be overlooked.
And I think the difference is on the individual basis, right? I do the same thing. Like, you know, we work on a new proposal and it goes really well. I have this internal AAR of like, okay, why did it go well? And what did it, and I can immediately make an adjustment in my head, right? It's like, okay, adjust. I'm now better, right? It's a little bit harder when there's, 15 guys that you need to build a business process around. And that's really the only reason why I wait after a period of time. But I wouldn't replace an individual after action review on a regular basis with a systematic process for a team, right? I still think you should be doing those individual after action reviews, but
definitely.
All right, George Sykes, how do you think we can rid the world of socialism once and for all?
You can't, because anytime somebody recognizes they can get something without the effort, they kind of like that.
Yeah.
Like being on the receiving end of socialism is a very easy thing, right? So you're never going to get rid of it. The only way to get rid of it is to have everybody take individual and personal responsibility and accountability for their lives. Yeah. That's how you end up.
That's the opposite of socialism. is ownership. Yeah.
Right. But we know that's not going to happen. So let's talk about this. So how do we do it? We encourage the people that we have a responsibility and obligation for to take personal accountability and responsibility for their own lives, and we allow them to feel the consequences of the decisions that they make. Now, if I do that in a controlled environment, for example, as a father, my little one today, in fact, he slapped me upside the head. I was laying on the bed and we were like cuddling, my wife and me, and he slapped me hard.
Yeah.
And you know, some parents might say, "Oh, don't do that. That's cute," or whatever. And I slapped him back. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't do that.
I would have.
I said, "Hey," and I disciplined him and I sent him in his room to go sit in timeout.
Yeah.
If I don't do that, which a lot of parents won't, if I don't do that, then I'm teaching him that there's no consequence for bad behavior.
Yeah.
And there is. And I need him to know that in a controlled environment, so that when he gets out into the real world, he won't actually get, in that situation, get his ass kicked or get shot, right? Or get fired or any number of things that could happen in the real world when daddy's not around to keep him protected and isolated. Yeah. So that's part of the way that we do it. The other part of the way that we do this is education. Like education. I even think about in I'm drawing a blank here, but like criminal reform, for example, right? It's like, and prison reform and court system reform, all this stuff is like education is very, very important. Like we have to educate these individuals, because the more education we have, like if you believe in socialism, communism, Marxism, you're not educated. Like by definition, you're very, very ignorant to what this actually produces. Like Bernie Sanders, for example, I'm not going to say he's unintelligent. But he's either the most ignorant man ever when it comes to economics, or he's lying to all of us. And he's one of the greatest liars of all time. Both are bad, by the way, guys. Like this is not a good situation that we're in here. That this person is being taken seriously by millions and millions of people. Yeah. So we've got to educate.
Oh, good. Sorry.
I was just going to say, we've got to educate.
Yeah. And why is he being taken serious? Because of the handout.
Right. Again, if I'm on the receiving end,
I don't have to pay my student loans. I'm going to vote for him. Really, like that's the driving factor, is the handout in which you get.
Well, there's a quote that says, when the masses realize they can vote themselves money, that will be the end of democracy or civilization or something. I can't remember the exact quote, but it's very true, I think. When the masses begin to realize that they can vote themselves money is the end or the beginning of the end. And I think we're there. And I don't think that the majority of Americans, the vast majority of Americans, have embraced this idea, will ever embrace this idea. No. But it's pretty interesting that tends to be the direction that we seem to be going.
Yeah. And it's like quite shocking, actually.
It's scary. Yeah. It's scary, frankly. It's a scary thing that there's so many individuals who believe this nonsense.
Now, George, what you could do is get rid of socialism by having a government that controls everybody. Oh, wait, no, that's socialism.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not going to work.
Right. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. It's never proven to work before, but this time's different. This time it will. Yeah. So whatever. Just education. Right.
Yeah. Well, and even if it's flavors, right? Because that's the other argument to this. Is like, well, it's not true socialism. It's like democratic social. Like they put another spin
socialism.
On it. Yeah. But they put another spin, and I think on all the different spins of it, you can look at the root of it, and the root still is not taking accountability and being a victim.
I don't even think there's another spin ownership. On it. I think they're just putting another word on it to hopefully fool enough people into believing it's something that it's not. There's no spin. Yeah. Like it is socialism. Yeah. There's no spin here. It's just put another word and then it's different. No, it's actually still the same.
Yeah. Copy. All right, Josh Helmer, what is something that you think every person should experience in their lifetime? I kind of like this question for whatever reason.
Man, everything. Like do it all, whatever comes to mind.
I didn't think about that. That's a really good point. Yeah.
Look, I mean, where do you begin? I mean, sex would be at the top of my list. uh, like reading good books, going on awesome vacations, getting punched in the face, having good friendships, losing your job, being embarrassed,
suffering, having a child,
having a kid. No, I don't agree with that one.
You don't think
no.
You want to be the experience of having a child? You want to put on the list?
Not everybody can handle it. Like, and I don't want, like, from my perspective, I don't want people having kids who can't handle having children, because then those children are here and talk about socialism and all these other things. Like, that's a problem, right?
Yeah.
I would say, look, I'm saying if you're ready, yeah. And maybe I shouldn't say ready, because everybody's going to say, well, nobody's ever ready.
Well, you're never ready, yeah.
If you're in the position where you can mentally and financially and emotionally handle a child, and that's something that you want, then yeah, I definitely say you should experience that. But not everybody should experience that, because not everybody would make a great parent.
Yeah.
So
I'd put suffering pretty high on this list. I know that sounds weird.
It doesn't to me. It doesn't sound weird.
Yeah.
I think that's important. I think it's important. We are trying to eliminate and extract all sorts of pain and suffering from people's lives, because we think, oh, it's unfair. It hurts my feelings if they have their feelings hurt. It's actually what makes people tougher, right?
Yeah.
It makes them resilient and tough.
And makes us appreciate life. So it's what makes life so precious, right?
Right. Yeah, definitely. And I'll go back specifically for men, something that, and I said this, getting punched in the face, I was actually serious about that. Like, whether it's training or boxing or jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai or whatever, like, I would say in a controlled environment would be better than an uncontrolled environment. But like, the reason I bring that up is because I think that's something that too many men don't experience.
Yeah.
Whether they're running from it or they never took the chance or the opportunity, there's some fear there. That will actually tell you a lot about yourself and how capable you are of dealing with, like you said, suffering and hardship.
Yeah. Jordan Stanley, we have been having a discussion about battle planning. It is I am struggling with reading stuff today.
I noticed.
We have been having a discussion about battle planning. Is it ever a good idea to make all or most of the quadrants about one particular aspect of your life? For example, work, business, family, and etc., when feeling the need to put max effort towards change?
I don't think that's a bad idea. I would still say focus on your four quadrants.
Yeah.
Right. Like have your four broken down quadrants. So again, just to reiterate here, so the guys,
like, you want to abandon one of the quadrants for another to double down on something. Okay.
No. So, and we have a lot of people. Let's take, I don't know, an example of a college student. All right. Let's say a college age guy's listening to this or watching it, and he's like, man, I'm so stressed out because I've got finals coming up and I've got all this debt and I've got all these things going on, and like, I'm just going to pour everything into this. I actually don't think that's a good idea. I think you ought to pour maybe more or a majority of your time and attention and energy into that. But if you can't go take a night to go play, I remember in college, a bunch of guys would go play volleyball once or twice a week. Like, if you can't take time to do that, then you're going to burn out and it's not going to serve you well. So you don't abandon quadrants. Yeah. But you may direct all of your quadrants towards a singular pursuit or objective, right? So maybe this quarter's theme is all centered around your family, the family dynamic, like how you can improve the family dynamic, or it's all centered around business. But even as I say that, I'm still kind of like,
still has a little bit of danger to it.
Yeah. As I'm working through this and just talking with you about it, I'm kind of thinking, I don't know if I would just focus it all towards family or all towards business at the expense of yourself or any other area of life that you're in.
Yeah.
I'd have to think on that a little bit more, but after just talking about it for a couple of minutes, I think, man, it is the reason we have the quadrants the way that they're set up. By the way, they are calibration, which is your mental, emotional, and spiritual health. You have connection, which is your relationships with other individuals. You have condition, which is physical health, and then you have contribution, which is becoming a man of value. That might be at work, you pick up a new skill, and now you're more valuable. It might be developing a new trait or characteristic or skill set that's going to help you serve your family better, or pick up a new hobby. There's a lot of different things, but essentially it's you becoming more valuable, right? And sometimes that's volunteer work, like, hey, I'm just going to contribute back to the community, and I'm going to go coach a sports team this year, and that's how I'm going to contribute this quarter. And other times it's, hey, no, I'm going to really strive to get that promotion, so I'm going to pick up this credential or this degree or this designation so I can secure that promotion. Nothing wrong with that either. Yeah. So I don't know if I would focus so heavily on one thing. That's why we have the quadrants the way we have them.
Yeah. Just to provide clarity and to what you're saying, Ryan, I think a lot of the time we fall into this idea that they're separate. Like, it's even my definition that I give my employees about work-life balance is different than what they think it is, right? Mm-hmm. Most people think work-life balance, that means like life, work, separation, and you get a little bit of both. And I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way, because when you go through a divorce, guess what? Your productivity at work drops and tanks, and it affects work. Mm-hmm. And you have fires at home. You know what I mean? They go both ways. Work's creating too much chaos. We're burning you out. It's going to affect your home life. And I think that's the way with everything. I really do. Now, I think we could tweak some things, but if you double down on, I don't know, all things work related, it's just a matter of time until personal life comes creeping in because you haven't been taking care of it. And it's going to affect that anyway. Mm-hmm. We know this, like what's one of the ways that you increase your productivity at work? Work out.
Right.
Like at first glance, you say, well, that doesn't work. I could have spent that hour instead of working out at the gym. I could spend that hour, putting more work in. But guess what? Right. Your productivity is going to be affected by you not doing something physical. Like, they all support each other.
I agree. And what it's funny, I'm just drawing something out here. I want to show you here in a second. But
you drawing pictures?
Drawing pictures. I'm just doodling. Nice. You were boring, so I was like, I'm just going to doodle over here.
You're like,
this is lame. I've heard all this before. No, what I was going to say is that sometimes guys will say, they'll look at a quadrant that they're focusing on, and they'll say, well, I can't really have it for this one because it kind of spills over into this one. Yeah, of course it does. It's like, you don't operate in a vacuum, right? Yeah. And that's to your point. If you become better at one thing, you're naturally going to become better at something else. Okay, here's my doodle.
All right.
So I think we've all seen like charts like this, right?
So hold on, guys on the podcast, you want to see this doodle, you got it. You got to jump on YouTube to watch this video. So youtube.com/orderofman. Okay, Here we go.
All right. So you have the 4 C's, right? And the 4 C's represent quadrants, areas of your life. All right. So work-life balance, what most people think is it's like this, right? That I'm going to put equal amount of tension here as here as here as here. Like, I'm going to put equal amount of tension. It's not really how it works, because sometimes based on what it is that we want to accomplish, it might look something more like that.
Yeah.
Right? So now, because of our goals and what we're going through, we're focused more on contribution, for example, and condition suffers a little bit because of that, and calibration suffers, but your relationships are still important, so you put a little bit more emphasis here. So this is constantly changing, and this is balance, right? Like, if you're trying to balance, whether you're on a surfboard or a skateboard or a snowboard or you're in martial arts, you're trying to balance, that doesn't mean you're always centered.
It's constant correction.
It's constant correction. For example, Kip, if you and I are rolling and you're in side control, like, you're not going to stand on top of me, like perfectly balanced with your hips over your heels and your shoulders over your hips
and hold still.
Right. Yeah. You're going to lay down, you're going to widen your base, your chest is going to go up and down based on how I respond and where I react, and this is balance. It's not equal distribution of weight or effort. It's concentrated effort towards the right places in order to produce your outcome. That's what balance is.
Totally.
So
I love the analogy of the pilot, right? It's like an airline pilot is constantly recorrecting, his flight pattern, right? And that's how you get to your destination, is constant recalibration.
Right.
Yeah. Man, that drawing was amazing.
Amazing. I mean, if we don't
On
pick up
YouTube.
100,000 new subscribers just because I shared that drawing, I'm going to be very, very disappointed.
Yeah. Although I joke, but I could see us maybe you using that diagram as part of our onboarding process on creating a battle plan. We might want to consider kind of putting that together. That might help.
I'm glad I thought of it.
Yeah. I'm so grateful that I'm amazing.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't it be? It would be weird if I wasn't as amazing as I am. Like I don't know what I'd do with myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I'd be depressed if I wasn't as amazing as I am.
It would suck if I wasn't me.
Which is probably
Kip,
true. I mean, okay? It's good. Yeah, I'm doing all right.
All right. What else? Here's
Mitch
one of the things, by the way, in the after action review for Zoom. I have no idea when we started this, and based on what I'm looking at here on this dashboard, like I don't know. If
it has no timer thing.
No, so I got a meeting at 1, so let's go for another maybe 10 minutes or so.
Okay, Mitch Jameson, is it better to take on a small amount of debt when beginning to grow your business in hopes of faster growth, or stay debt free and grow slower?
I don't think better is the right way to look at this, because it really depends on your objective
and strategy and approach.
Well, I'll give you two specific examples. So I'll give you Order of Man, and I'll give you some limited information about Origin, just because I know Pete a little bit and he's disclosed some of this stuff. I won't get into specifics.
Well, and his example is perfect for this.
So with Order of Man, we are 100% debt free. We don't have any debt, whether it's our events or anything new that I purchase. And it's a very it's a cash flow business with low overhead and relatively low debt, and that works great for me. It works perfectly. You know, it's highly leveraged. Kip, I have you and Drew and Chris and other guys who help me in certain capacities, and you guys are compensated for that. But you know, for the most part, it's just cash flow is how it works. Yep. Now, it's not scaled to something like a physical product, right? So if you take Origin, for example, they're making gis and rash guards and denim, and
new pants, right? They have a new line of pants that just got released.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
And boots. Like, I know that Pete invested a significant amount of money before he ever sold his first pair of boots. Significant amount of money.
Yeah, which is probably required, right? He has to buy all that product, adjust machinery. Like, there's no way to do it without that, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I also know that, and I don't know his financials. I'm not disclosing any of that because I don't know it, but I know that he's taken on some debt in order to achieve some of the objectives and the goals that he's after and he wants to accomplish. Neither one is better. His system's not better than mine. My system's not better than his. It just happens to be right for what I want to accomplish and right for what he's trying to accomplish. What I would say is that if you are considering bringing on debt, just don't be stupid. Don't take on more than you need. Don't get raked over the coals with your financing terms. Try to pay it off as quickly as possible. And just be hyper efficient with the way that you run the business, so you don't get yourself in up to your eyeballs in debt. You know, it's just not a good thing. Does it work? Yes. Can it work? Yes. Should you take out debt in certain situations? I would say yes. But I hate giving the answer of it depends. It just feels like a cop out, but that's truly the answer in this. And I just don't have enough information and I'm not even the guy to tell you should or shouldn't you take out debt. That's not my strong place. So I would just say be careful. If you are, just be careful and make sure it ties into what it is you're trying to accomplish.
Have a clear strategy too.
Yeah, if you're like a digital product, similar like what we're doing here, and you're not planning on taking this public and it being the next Facebook, then I would say you could do it without debt. But if you are, hey, I want to create this unicorn, this $1 billion company, and it's this app or this program I'm working on, then yeah, you're probably going to need to take on some debt or bring in some investors, which is not maybe debt necessarily, but it could be formatted that way.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I have a few friends that are in the startup business, and it's not an option, right? Like you have to have VC funding to pull it off, because they require, like, their strategy is to generate growth as fast as possible, ultimately to sell. And it wouldn't work, right? By the time, if they didn't take on debt and they slowly build the business, by the time they got the actual product developed, someone would have already swung into the market, destroyed them, and sold for more, right? Like it's part of the game. So I think it's a different game, obviously, for everything. The only thing I'd add, and you've already mentioned it, Ryan, a little bit, is just strategy. Whenever I think about debt, like, okay, I'm going to take on debt. Okay, what does that mean, right? I'm going to take this much, and out of that, I should get these results, and this is what milestones I have to hit to ensure that investment was a proper investment.
And also to add to that too, because you're exactly right, is finding somebody who knows this stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's not, to me, it would not be smart to go out and take out, whether it's 10,000 or 100,000, I don't know, whatever, your level of debt, and then you just kind of wing it with what you're going to do with it. Then what benchmarks you need to hit. Like, hire somebody to help you do that. And you think, well, that's going to eat into my cash savings, or I'm going to have to take out more debt. Yeah, maybe, but it's way more efficient to do it that way than just to wing it and hope it all works out.
Yeah, totally. All right, Robert Gillespie, thoughts on how to be there for your father when he's, jeez, how many questions have I slaughtered so far? This is like
I did
every
the same
other
thing last week. I'm like, I can't read this.
I don't know what it is, like, or it's not reading how I would write it.
Oh,
you know what I mean? And so
you know
I'm
how like when sometimes you read a brand new book and you start reading it and you're like, this book, I can't read this book because it seems clunky. But then you just keep reading, and then gradually you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you get that person's flow of explaining things.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the AMA is like the extreme version of that, right? Because it's like every question's like some
every
other
question
person.
is different. Yeah, it's a different cadence or tone. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. All right. Thoughts on how to be there for your father when, after 38 years of marriage, your mother decides she doesn't want to be married. That's where I struggle with this, is because he's speaking in third person. And I was like, wait, is he talking about his own parents?
Oh,
okay.
right. Okay.
And doesn't want to be married anymore and wants out. Not only has she decided to split from the house, but she is also leaving the state, leaving her family and grandchildren behind to be near her brother, who is her last family member, as her dad passed 12 years ago. I've given him my copy of Sovereignty, and I'm just offering support where able.
Yeah, look, man. Sorry to hear all this
of marriage.
This is an insane situation, and I'm not going to pretend I know what it feels like to go through this, but holy cow, I can't imagine. Look, your dad doesn't probably want to hear all the stuff about, let me help you, it's all going to be okay, and let me see it. He's probably a proud man, I imagine. 38 years, he probably took pride in that.
Yeah.
He's probably been, relatively successful in his
been around the block.
Right.
Yeah.
So you pandering to him and like, Dad, it's going to be okay, and let me take care of you, is probably just my assumption is not going to work. What I would say would work is just include him.
Yeah.
Hey, Dad, like, I'm going to dinner Friday night. Me and the kids. You want to come with us?
Yeah. And I wouldn't make it a big deal either.
No, don't make it a big deal.
Kind of what you're alluding to is like, hey, I'm doing this. You want to join me?
Right.
Not like, oh, well, let's plan a big dinner and have you come over. And then, because now it feels like you're just kowtowing and you're going to be feeling sorry for him. And that's just going to piss him off.
And he's going to feel stupid about that. Well, of course, he's probably embarrassed, maybe a little humiliated too. Like I would feel like that. I would feel like a failure.
Yeah.
So he's probably feeling, so I don't need somebody to pour salt in the wound. I just need somebody to support me and kind of be there. So for me, I think this is his father-in-law, right? Did I hear that right?
No, your father. His father.
It's his father. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's even better because you're closer. So yeah, Dad, we're going to dinner. We're going out to Red Lobster on Friday. Me and the wife and the kids, and why don't you just come with us? And then when you're there, just be normal.
Yeah.
Like, don't talk about Mom. Don't talk about how he's doing and are you feeling okay? No, just like, hey, what are you working on or what's going on? Like just be normal. Like nothing's wrong. And you do that, like whether it's a hobby or him coming to dinner or you just swinging by. But just, I would say just include him. Just drop, hey, a text. A very simple text. Again, you're not asking him like, oh, can I fix all your problems? It's just like, hey, Dad, thinking about you today. Hope you have a great day. I got to go to work, but have a good one.
Yeah. Just
a text, just do that. Think about ways to do that. Be normal. Don't make a big deal out of it. And then just be present. And, if and when he's ready to talk about it a little bit more deeply, he's going to know exactly where to turn because you were the one that was there when he needed you to be there in the way that
and he'll let you know. He'll let you know when he's ready.
Right. Yeah. He's a grown man. Don't treat him like a kid.
All right, Tyson Junkers, what are
Let's
5
make
things?
This the last one, Kip, by the way.
Okay. Tyson Junkers, what are 5 things every man should keep in his house? Sounds like a good future video / Twitter post by Mr. Mickler from the truck.
I'm
gonna do truck videos anymore.
The what?
The truck videos. You don't do them as much.
I don't do them as much because years ago somebody had said something on Facebook of like, you shouldn't do videos while you're driving, and I was like, shut up, what do you know? Something like that. Yeah. And then I was like, oh no, he's probably right, actually. And so I stopped. Like I just committed at that point. I was like, hey, I'm not going to record while I'm driving. So I do some truck videos if I have a thought, but it's usually, if I'm parked or get home, I'll just record one real quick, but I don't do it while I'm driving.
All right.
So how do we get talking about that?
Sorry.
The first response I'm going to give you is a cheat a little bit. It's kind of like the thing where the genie says you have 3 wishes and one of them can't be you can ask for more wishes, but I'm doing that because it's our show and we can do whatever the hell we want.
And I'm a genie.
And you can't stop me. So my first one is a library. Not a specific book, but just a library. Like every man should have a library in his house filled with books that are going to uplift and edify and give information and knowledge and help him be a better man. So number 1 is a library.
Love it.
Number 2 is a space. I don't care if it's the garage or the barn or there's a spare room or it's like me, the podcasting studio, but every man should have a space that is his. It's organized the way he wants. It's got the decor that he wants. It's like his space. Not to be a slob or to be disgusting or anything, but like to just go and just recharge. Maybe you like to smoke on a cigar and that's where you do it. And you have some sports memorabilia or you have quotes on the wall that inspire you, or you have all your tools, or your hunting room where you have some of your, even like this, you have some of your mounts and you have your firearms, like whatever, but just your space.
Yeah.
The third one I would say is a firearm and be trained with it. Every man should have a firearm in his house as long as you can. I realize there's some regulations for some of our international listeners and brothers, but if you can legally, then I would say that never mind. I'm not going to get into that. You should have a firearm. Okay. You should have a firearm. Well, I don't know what else. I can't think of anything else that's maybe you have a couple and I'll like brainstorm. Any thoughts that you have?
Well, when I read this, I was immediately like, are we going from a survival perspective or creating an environment that's best for your family? Right. Cause I think the book thing is like good for me and it sets the tone for your kids and like books are important and they're laying around and you know what I mean? But if I go on the survival side, then I'm like, there should be a knife in the house, a backup water supply, fuel source of some kind. You know what I mean? And I started going down that path. So I'm kind of
fill in the blanks here and say like, let's not go that route. Like let's do the fun route where it's not like so survival, but just like some things that are like good to have for a man in the house.
Yeah. I didn't think about the room thing. I love the room thing, by the way. Books, man, I'm not going to be able to add to your list. I don't know.
To me, a great chair. Like my wife and I, we bought for Christmas, we bought each other chairs and mine's like a really nice, it was more expensive than I've ever spent on a chair, but it was a good investment. Like she has her chair and it's her style and the way she likes it. I have my chair. They're sitting right next to each other. And it's just great. Like it's a leather chair. It's like deep, so I can just lounge in it. I can read a book, and it's nice. So
mats. You should have every house should have some form of mats available.
We got our mats in the front room for sure.
Yeah. I'm failing on your list, by the way.
Do you have those things?
No, I don't have a room anymore because once we use the room for something else. I really don't. Maybe
Do you
the
have
garage.
mats? You have mats.
I do have mats though,
Yeah.
but that's it. Oh, and not a library yet, kind of. We're getting
And it does.
there.
I'm not talking about like this big like library.
Yeah, like a
where you
dedicated
ladder.
room.
I'm talking about like you got your books, man.
Some shelves of books. Yeah.
Yeah.
Copy.
I would say Legos. Legos are important. Actually, I'm not kidding on that. If you think I'm joking, I'm not. Like, Legos are awesome.
That's because you're in the Lego mode. My kids,
I'm
unfortunately,
always into Lego mode.
My two group of kids, my next gen group has not reached Lego stage yet. So
That's your failure. As a
I know
father.
my older kids have already surpassed Legos.
That's
so
also your
I have to
failure
wait
as a father.
Yeah.
If they
You're like, you should
surpass
not be
Lego.
surpassing.
No.
Yeah.
What are you teaching these kids?
Well, what's frustrating is I asked my son Ian, I'm like, hey, where's your your Harry Potter castle thing? Remember? And he's like, oh, I gave it away. I'm like,
What?
that thing was like $200.
Yeah, man.
And then second, it was so awesome. Like we should have glued it together and thrown it in a box at least or something. But
Lego has a new it's fairly new. It's maybe a little older at this point. It's the Batmobile, like the 1980s, what's that guy's name?
The old
Michael
school one.
Keaton. Michael Keaton.
yeah, with
Batmobile.
the fan in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually made a Pinewood Derby with my boys one year, and it was that Batmobile. It was amazing.
That's
It
cool.
didn't go fast, but it looked rad as hell.
You should look into, if you like that stuff, you should do those 3D puzzles. Have you done those before?
Yeah, they're called Legos. And there's no instructions. You just build whatever you want. No, I haven't looked at those.
They're actually really, really cool. It's a puzzle, and you
look
build a
into it.
house
I'll
or a
look into
Millennium
it.
Falcon or something. It's cool.
All right, I'll look into it.
I don't know.
There's a great
yeah.
new Lego show, by the way, that you should check out. I thought of another one. A grill.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, every man
Something
ought to have a grill. Something
You're
to cook meat on.
cooking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're cooking
So
space.
we've got our Traeger grill. I actually don't use it all that often. My wife uses it like 99% of the time, but hey, it's here and she uses it and I'll enjoy the benefits of it.
Full disclaimer, Ryan's not suggesting that you keep the grill in your house when you're cooking. That's a fire hazard. But we're assuming on the property is acceptable.
Somewhere on the property would probably be ideal.
I would say yard for me.
I
I know that's different for other guys, but it's really important that I have my yard.
I like that. That's good. You know, I would add one more. I got one more. This would be
Okay.
5.
A TV.
A gym. No. A gym.
Yeah.
You need to have a squat rack. That's what it is. A squat rack and a bench that you can adjust. So you can do incline dumbbell press, you can do incline bench, you can do squats, deadlifts,
Pull-ups on it. Yeah.
pull-ups. Yep. That's what I would say. So
There you go.
So we got library, room,
Mats.
Legos,
And
grill, and a gym.
You get 6, Tyson.
Bonus. Dude, what more could you possibly need? All right, I got to go. It's 1 o'clock. Let's
Yeah.
wrap this up. In
Okay.
the next 10, 20 seconds.
20 seconds. Join us online. Learn more about the Iron Council, orderman.com/Iron Council. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/group/orderman. Check us out on YouTube. You can Google, register to the podcast, follow Mr. Mickler on Twitter and Instagram.
I would have
Done.
probably just picked one of those, but good job. All right, Kip, I appreciate you, man. Glad you're back. All right, guys, glad you're with us. Hopefully we had some fun today and answered some of your questions. Keep the questions coming. Keep staying engaged in this battle to reclaim and restore masculinity. We need it. We really do. We'll catch you on Friday. Until then, go out there, take action, become the man you are meant to be.